Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It's pre-match build-up show once again. I'm back. The videos are back on this channel. Unfortunately, it was a rather hectic Christmas period, a little bit more hectic than I'd expected it to be, so I wasn't able to do any pre or post-match videos for the last couple of games, which is of course a shame because over that time, Liverpool were crowned champions of the world after an incredibly intense but exciting World Cup final against Flamengo in Doha. And then, of course, last time out, just the other day, we put in perhaps the complete performance, certainly one of the best performances we've seen under Jurgen Klopp against a side that was supposedly one of, if not the nearest title rival to us, beating Leicester 4-0 to catapult us to the top of the table. Of course, by the time I'm now recording this video, Man City have played and lost to Wolves, which means in some ways a lot of us are seeing the Premier League as wrapped up now. I think even the most cautious of people are starting to feel a little bit silly saying it's not already over and saying that there is a chance Liverpool throw it away. On current form, on the way this Liverpool side are playing, on the mental strength they've got as well, you know, they don't look like a side that one knock would suddenly send them and knock them asunder and they just completely lose focus and the title race would spiral out of control. It looks like a team where they could lose this game against Wolves. Obviously, I'm hoping they don't. I'm not expecting them to. But if they do lose this game, they're not going to let any doubt seep into their minds. They're not going to start thinking, oh, well, what if Man City creep in the back door? They put a good run together. We struggle with fixture congestion or anything like that. They're simply always focused on the next game, knowing that if they keep doing that and if they keep winning that next game, then trophies will come at the end of the season. And speaking of trophies, this is, of course, the homecoming for the world champions as well. The first time we'll play at Anfield since we lifted that lovely silver and gold trophy in Qatar. And we will, for once, get to wear the World Champions badge on the t-shirt. Unfortunately, the Premier League, for whatever reason, just aren't letting us wear it in all the games, but they have said that we can wear it for one domestic Premier League match, and we've chosen this one, which kind of makes sense. It would have been funny to leave it for, you know, maybe the game against Everton in the FA Cup, or the game against City at the Etihad, or even Man United at home, something like that, or even the game when we hopefully lift the trophy at the end, the Premier League trophy at the end of the season, just to kind of create some nice imagery there. But they've gone with this, the homecoming match, the first time that the fans at Anfield will get to see the world champions playing, and that is of course absolutely fantastic and will hopefully give the players a little bit of a boost as well and strike some fear into the hearts of Wolves. And I do think, on the subject of Wolves, they of course only played last night, which could make a huge difference in this game. I think a lot of our focus was on Man City playing twice in 48 hours. I think we're all looking at that and thinking that's a huge advantage for Liverpool. The fact that they are going to struggle with fatigue. We had the exact same scenario a couple of years ago where we played them on New Year's Eve, and then less than 48 hours later we had to play Sunderland away on the 2nd of January. It bit us on the backside as well because we ended up drawing that game with a quite poor performance against Sunderland, and I think we're all hoping that it would affect City as well. And it kind of got pushed to the wayside that Wolves are in the exact same situation. It's actually worse for them. They're playing a couple hours earlier than Man City, and when the gap between games is this tight, that couple of hours could make all the difference. You know, I have no idea what their training regime is going to be, but fair play if they can even get one session in today, because the players of course will need that recovery time and stuff like that. Maybe they have a session on Sunday morning before the match. That itself seems weird. And of course the way they played against Man City, I'm sure plenty of us watched the game. It went right to the wire. I think it worked out perfectly for Liverpool. City playing with 10 men meant they had to run themselves into the ground, and Wolves endlessly chasing the game and eventually coming up with that goal at the end mean they will have ran themselves ragged trying to get those 3 points. And to be perfectly honest, I just can't see them having the energy. And also with their squad depth, they've struggled a bit with injuries at the moment. They've got midfielders like Dendoncker and Roman Saiz playing at centre half in that back three to kind of fill in because players like Willy Bolly aren't available at the moment. And they've done well, but they're down to the bare bones of the squad, and that's at a really difficult time in the season where they've been presented with an almost impossible task. You know, they've climbed a huge mountain to beat Man City at home, and then they've got to go and play against a team that hasn't lost at home in over 2.5 years in the Premier League. That's a really, really difficult task for them, and you'd hope that would be a massive, massive boost for Liverpool going into this game, because while we have had that extra day's rest, things haven't exactly been perfect in the fitness department. Obviously, because I haven't done any of these videos, I haven't really had, you know, essentially a chat with you guys where I've said who's available and who isn't and what kind of timescales there are. Essentially, all the lads that are currently injured, so Oxlade-Chamberlain, who went off in the game against Flamengo, Fabinho as well, Joel Matip and Dejan Lovren, they're all ruled out for this game. Jurgen Klopp has said that he's expecting most of them to return to training around about mid-January, and then we go from there in terms of waiting to see whether any of them, when any of them actually become available. You know, he's not betting on any of them being available for that, and he'll only start to talk about the timescales for bringing back once they return to training. But until then, there's absolutely no chance of them playing. On the plus side, he said said that every single player who was available in the previous game against Leicester will be available for this one, which is obviously fantastic news because our squad is starting to look a bit threadbare with the injuries we've got at the moment and with the pressure it's being put under with the fixture list, which of course is a boat that everyone else is in, so in no way am I using it as an excuse, but it will affect the way Liverpool line up, and it is a little bit annoying because in some ways, you know, if you're a neutral, it affects the way games are played as well. It means they can't be played at the usual incredibly high tempo that we expect from Premier League matches. But yeah, anyone that was available for Leicester, and that includes Jordan Henderson, who went off with a knock. You know, it was only kind of, it looked like more of a wound than anything else, and he was actually adamant to play on. And Jurgen Klopp said sort of jokingly, it's only pain that Jordan Henderson's playing through at the moment, and he actually wanted to stay on the pitch. I think it was very obvious from the game, but Jurgen Klopp kind of saw that as an opportunity to give him a little bit of a rest ahead of this game. But apart from that, Jurgen has spoken about rotating a little bit. I think he's been eyeing this game up, obviously with the difficulty of the fixture against Leicester and how we took the Club World Cup very seriously. We didn't really want to rotate there. So I think this game, then the Sheffield United home game in a few days' time afterwards, and then of course the home game against Everton in the FA Cup. Those are the three games where I think he'll look to rotate. Obviously we've got Minamino to come in for the game against Everton, which is absolutely fantastic, but until then we'll have to do without him. But Jurgen Klopp will be starting to think of these as a block of games, I think, and then there's a 6-day gap after that match against Everton where the players can all recover, ready for a massive, massive game away to Tottenham Hotspur. But in the meantime, looking at purely this match, in goal, I think it's going to be Alisson Becker, you know, picking up the clean sheets like it's absolutely nothing at the moment, which is, of course, fantastic after the difficulty we had earlier on in the season. Just goes to show that he has always been a quality keeper, and it was kind of a little bit of a freak stat in a way because it wasn't like he was playing badly, the defence wasn't absolutely rubbish, they weren't conceding bucket loads of goals per game or anything like that. It was just that there was the occasional lapse of concentration, and teams managed to punish that very, very well. On the plus side, of course, Liverpool tended to win the games anyway, but as it stands now, we're keeping those clean sheets over and over again, which is absolutely fantastic. Hopefully he can pick up yet another one in this game against the Wolves side, which is pretty effective going forward against the big teams. I think we've got to be pretty careful going into this match, and I'll talk about them a little bit more later on in the video. But in the meantime, in front of Alisson, it's of course going to be Virgil van Dijk and Joe Gomez as a centre-back pairing. Both of them have been absolutely fantastic since Gomez came back into the side, which is of course a huge boost. Every single time a centre-back gets injured, their replacement comes in and steps up. That's just the way under Jurgen Klopp. It's clear that he has got the man management in that department down to a T. He knows how to fill a player with confidence. We've seen similar stuff with Adam Lallana as well, who when he has been called upon this season, and I think he has been called upon a little bit more than anyone expected, and maybe more than Jurgen expected as well, just due to different circumstances, and also due to the fact that he's clearly showing what he's got in training, and he's showing what he's got in matches as well. But he has been, I think he's actually in a strange way in some of the best form of his Liverpool career, and we're seeing that around the whole squad at the moment with the rotation that Jurgen has been forced to implement during this difficult patch of fixtures. So Gomez, absolutely fantastic, another brilliant performance, just bossed Jamie Vardy all over the park in the game against Leicester, and hopefully he can do the same to that Wolves front line in this match. But him and Van Dijk will be starting alongside each other. Moving on into the full-back positions, I think it's a difficult choice here. It's hard to drop Trent Alexander-Arnold because he played the game of his life against Leicester, and it feels like while he's in that form, just keep him going. You know, don't knock him off his stride or anything like that. He's doing fantastically, and of course, he's loving racking these assists up at the moment, and there's probably some sort of calendar year record that is on the line for him to get. So I think he has to start the game. And on the other side, I considered putting Milner in, but I think with the strength Wolves have got and with particular players they have in those sorts of areas on the flanks, I don't think we can afford to really, you know, take any risks with our fullback options. Otherwise, I would have gone with Milner at left back. I think as it stands, that's probably definitely what we're going to do in the game against Sheffield United. But until then, I think what we're going to do is we're going to stick with our first team, as it's going to be Andrew Robertson at left back. Bear in mind, these lads don't really want a rest at the end of the day. Jurgen Klopp and the medical staff will be wanting and expecting them to need a rest at some point. But players like Andrew Robertson, he wants to play every single game. He's been doing that so far this season. And while maybe you could argue there's a bit of fatigue here and there, it certainly hasn't really done any long-term damage in terms of injuries so far. So I think he'll probably be available for this game. So I think we stick him in at left back once again. Moving on to the midfield, Henderson I think will come straight back into the side. No worries there about the injury picked up, and he is of course also in fantastic form at the moment in that number 6 role. Ahead of him, I think we play Naby Keita and Adam Lallana. I think this is the game where Gini Wijnaldum gets a rest. Obviously, someone's going to have to get a rest at some point, and I think he deserves it. And we are going to see just general rotation in the centre of the park with regards to the games we've got coming up. There's plenty of players available that can play those roles. We are getting down to the bare bones. We are scraping the bottom of the barrel. We're down to, I think, 5 midfielders technically now. You know, of course, you've got the lads I think are going to start, Henderson and Lana Keita. Then you've got Gini Wijnaldum, James Milner as well, but I think we'll more be looking at using him as a utility man. I think he'll rarely start in that midfield berth. It'll more be either coming on as a sub or starting as in one of the fullback positions to cover for them. So we're down to some pretty difficult options, but we're not down to just 3 left, which is obviously fantastic. And of course, with the way we're going to rotate, we do maybe see a little bit of Curtis Jones. Maybe he saves him for the derby. Maybe he gets a little bit of a game off the bench in this one, or the game against Sheffield United. But I don't think he's going to be starting for this match. I think Jurgen Klopp is going to play it reasonably safe with Henderson, the in-form Adam Lallana, and of course, the also in-form Naby Keita. And then in front of those guys, again, it's a difficult call here because I think Wolves are a fantastic team and we cannot underestimate them. And we've got a little bit of a difficult run here where we've got plenty of games. None of them are against big sides, but they're all against decent teams that are going to give you a game and you can't really rest players against. You know, Wolves, fantastic 5th place at the moment. Sheffield United having a brilliant season, so well drilled. And then Everton in the Cup, they're obviously going to be massively up for that. It's a knockout game and they're managed by Carlo Ancelotti now as well. So it's a really, really difficult position for Jurgen Klopp, and I think he's got to be very careful in terms of what players he uses in what game. And I think it might almost come down to a horses for courses thing. I think ideally every single one of Mane, Firmino and Salah misses out on one of these games. It's just a matter of which one Jurgen Klopp decides that we can afford to drop them out of, and that there's someone else in the side who can come in and cause some problems. I think for this one, I reckon he's going to take Mo Salah out the side. I think because Firmino's been in such excellent form, it's so hard to drop him at the moment. He has to stay in the side and keep up his confidence, keep up this run he's on at the moment. I think Mane is just virtually undroppable. There's absolutely no one like him on the planet. And so I think Salah will come out the side. And then I reckon, for the sake of rotation, this is the match where we will see a little bit of Xherdan Shaqiri on that right-hand side. Right, I'm going to make this next segment quick because my camera is saying that it's going to run out of charge any minute now. So taking a very little look at Wolves, then of course, as I said, we all saw them play in the game against Manchester City and they performed brilliantly. They were absolutely fantastic. In some ways, it was never in doubt that they were going to get some sort of result out of the game, especially once Traore hammers in that goal to make it 2-1. I think it's clear that Man City just haven't got the legs, haven't got the composure, and Wolves have got that sheer desire and tactical astuteness as well, and quality in the players to just force at least one goal out of the game, and that is exactly what they did. Adama Traore was central to the whole thing. The way he scored, he took his goal, and then the way he sets up that one for Raul Jimenez, just throwing Ben Mendy off the ball with all the strength he's got, and he has got a hell of a lot of it. He uses that pace to beat men as well, and then his technique is absolutely sublime. There's been a lot said about Adama Traore. Jurgen Klopp was absolutely raving about him in his press conference as well, just saying he's a brilliant lad and he's really, really finding his feet at Wolves. He's got a perfect position there that suits him absolutely down to the ground. It takes advantage of the fact that he can use pace out wide and he's got the skills to beat men, but also he has got end product as well, especially in these types of games. He really seems to know his way around the big 6 sides, and that's something that Liverpool have got to be very, very wary of. And I think we have a slightly warped view of Wolves in a way because our league games against them last season were under slightly strange circumstances. You've of course got the 2-0 at Molineux, where I think we just managed to nullify them very, very well. And then of course the game at the end of the season at Anfield, where our mind was on very, very different things. We were all really thinking about that City game at Brighton and not really about the Liverpool match. Wolves actually gave us a very, very decent game. They pressed us very well. They dominated possession and the chances at times and caused Liverpool some real problems. And we've got to be very, very aware of that. And if there's one thing I'm just really hoping, it's that fitness wins out for Liverpool in this game, and that is what gets the better of Wolves. At the end of the day, while our squad is suffering with injuries a bit at the moment, they're suffering with injuries as well, and they don't have the same depth as us, and I think they will struggle more as well. I think that extra day's rest is going to make a huge difference. I think whatever happens, the last half hour, you'd expect Liverpool to dominate you that. You'd expect that to be when we really turn the screw, and if it is 0-0 or if it's 1-0 to Wolves or 2-1 to Wolves or whatever, I'd still back us to win the game, provided we've still got a full half hour there to make it count, because we've got the available options on the bench as well. If we start the way I'm expecting us to start, we'll be able to bring someone like Salah on. We've got super sub Divock Origi as well. We'll just have more options and probably more fitness than them, and that's what's won games time and time again for Liverpool, is that extra little yard of pace in the last 10 minutes, the last 5 minutes. It's why we score so many late goals. It's why we dig so many results out of the fire, because that's what we're capable of doing, because it's drilled into the players to have that kind of fitness built into their muscles, and I think that is what will eventually make the difference, because I think it's going to be a tight game. I think Wolves are fantastic. They're a brilliant side. They're going to take the game to us. They're going to cause problems. They're going to be tight defensively and brilliant on the counter and effective in possession as well. I think they will do everything that we're going to expect them to do, and I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it will come down to that last half hour, but if I had to put money on it, if I was a gambling man, as always, I'm going to say it's going to be a Liverpool win, and if I had to put money on a result, I'm going to say 2-0. 2-0 to the Reds, clean sheet, couple of goals in the last half hour, 3 more points, and continuing that incessant march to the Premier League title. And now we're going to go, because the camera is really freaking out about its battery. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, as always, you know what to do. Hit the like button down there. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back tomorrow evening after we've hopefully beaten Wolves to keep our lead at the top of the table. Until then, bye for now.